Hi everyone, Azriel Knight here with another episode of Days of Night. If you missed the last episode, I talked about a huge giveaway I'm having on my monthly newsletter, and the winners will be announced September 1st. I'll be giving away 2 prize packages of a 35mm camera, 2 rolls of film, and my 2020 Darkroom box set. Link is in the description. Today I'm going to be talking about the Nikkor 35mm f1.8g ED, which is one of my brand new lenses for my Nikon F100. The other one I talked about last time, the 50mm f1.8g. I'm also going to tell you about my first impressions on a limited edition film, Ars Imago 320 black and white 35mm film. To demonstrate both the lens and the film, I took a little trip back in time. Be sure and stay tuned. Let's get started. Recently, I traveled up to the Edmonton area. I was raised up there, and I tend to go up every few years for nostalgia's sake. I do some reflecting and generally just take a break from the normal. If you saw the last episode, then you know I went to Morinville, north of Edmonton, and captured some powerful images while taking my stroll down memory lane. For my other nostalgic walk, so to speak, I went to Fort Edmonton Park, which, if you don't know, is a sort of living history attraction. It's nestled in Edmonton's river valley and surrounded by dense wooded area. The park features several time periods and both original and fabricated structures. It is in essence a theater and a museum, with actors in period clothing and many buildings that you can walk right into. You can get around the park by foot, by horse, by streetcar, or by steam train. It is the largest of its kind in Canada. I hadn't been there since I was a kid on a field trip, at least 25 years, and I really wanted to go back and see it. Even though at the end of the day, I'm just a weirdo going to an amusement park when most people bring their families, I didn't care. I love this stuff, and if you've been subscribed for a while, you've seen me make multiple trips to Heritage Park here in Calgary, and if you haven't seen those, I'll leave a link in the description. My goal was to shoot 1 roll of film with 1 lens. For the lens, I chose my brand new Nikkor 35mm f1.8g ED for my Nikon F100, and the roll of film I chose was the Ars Imago 320. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I checked a pronunciation online. It says Imago. I thought it was Imago. I've heard Imago. At this point, I'm probably pronouncing it several different ways, but I checked the official pronunciation through Google, and it's Imago, or Imago. See, I can't even get it right. Anyway, Ars Imago 320 black and white. This film was donated to me by Al, and thank you to Al. He's donated a ton of film, and it's been incredibly helpful. Thank you, Al, for providing film for this channel. But how did I do? Let's take a look. I hope you enjoyed those. I did my best to cover as much of the park as I could, but the place is massive. I definitely go back. I'd love to see what it looks like in the evening. Riding a steam train is always a treat. I thought about taking the streetcar, but it's still a little too cramped for my comfort zone, at least right now. One of the things I stumbled on that I didn't expect at all was a church built by my ancestors, George and John McDougall. I walked in, turned around, and looked up, and there was Reverend McDougall's photo. I spent a little extra time in there just admiring the place, though I've been able to visit one of their churches in the past. This was my first experience inside one. Now that I think about it, though, I was likely in here as a child, but I had no idea of my family history at the time. Some might find it cheesy, but I love the people walking around in period clothing, and if someone tipped their hat to me, well, I tipped it right back at them. I could talk about my love for the Old West all day, but let's move on to my first impressions of the lens and the film. First, the lens. There is a debate that will likely never end on whether you should own a 35mm or 50mm prime lens, and I hate debating, so I bought them both. The one thing I will say is that 35mm lenses, at least Nikon ones, are significantly steeper in price. While the 50mm 1.8 set me back about $250, the 35mm 1.8 was more than twice that at $700 Canadian after taxes. The Nikkor 35mm f1.8g ED is an FX lens, that is, a Nikon lens for both full frame and crop sensor cameras, containing 11 elements and 9 groups. The aperture is made up of 7 rounded blades and stops down to f16. The minimum focusing distance is just 9.8 inches or 0.25 meters from the image plane, that is, the back of the camera, so an extremely close focus. It has a 58mm filter size and utilizes a rear focusing system for quicker autofocus. Out of the box, the lens comes with caps, a hood, and a really crummy lens pouch. Perhaps its best features are its spherical element, which reduces aberrations, and ED glass, which stands for extra low dispersion, which corrects for chromatic aberration. The lens is plastic, but that also means it's light, about 300 grams, the weight of 300 paper clips, or about the weight of the heart of an adult human male. Overall, what you get is a lightweight, quick, and accurate autofocusing lens for your DSLR or more modern SLR. I absolutely love shooting with this lens. It's a little bigger than I wanted in a 35mm, but it's quick, lightweight, accurate, and sharp. I know I've said the 50mm is a mandatory lens, and I still believe that, but I also felt the 35mm was a lot more natural for my shooting style, at least in this instance where I found myself wanting to capture both entire buildings from the outside as well as tight interiors. Now about the film. Here's the box for Imago, whatever, 320 barcode on the back. Developed before January 2022. You can see there's like a metallic stripe on the front. That's kind of neat. And then just the name of the company on the top. And again on the side, it's got a little strip of gold metallic. Nice little accent there. Opening up the box, you can see that it's got the name on the inside as well as developing instructions. A typical black canister with an inside lip. And then I had a little trouble getting the film out. I don't know why. Maybe the canister was slightly small. Who knows? But typical film canister. The film itself had a bit of a purplish hue to it. A website on the bottom. You can see there's no DX barcode. And same kind of styling. Next, let's read a bit from the data sheet and see what it has to say. Imago 320 is a black and white film nominally rated at ISO 320 speed. It can be used both indoors and outdoors with different light conditions. Imago 320 is a versatile fine-grained film with a very high sharpness and a wide exposure latitude. That pretty much matches up with my first impressions as well. Obviously, I used it indoors as well as outside, and the process was fairly seamless, though I did forget to adjust my settings a couple of times. Wide latitude, 100%. Those who shoot with Tri-X or HP5 will feel right at home with Ars Imago 320. As far as the film speed goes, I hardly noticed the difference between 320 and 400. You may ask why 320 ISO, and the website states, according to our tests with most developments, 320 ISO is the nominal sensitivity of the film, which returns a correct and wide tonal range. This conveys higher detail in shadows and a very fine grain. With some developments, it can be pushed up to 800 ISO. If you're shooting indoors, you'll have better luck going wider on both focal length and aperture, but other than that, you're pretty much free to shoot in most natural lighting situations. Ars Imago was a great film to use and perfect for my trip to Fort Edmonton. I was very happy with the results. If I had one complaint, I would say it could be a little punchier, but I can always make those adjustments in post. The physicality of the film gave me very little trouble. It was easy to load onto the reel, and it didn't curl much after development. Being a limited edition film, it's hard to say when you can get your hands on a roll, if ever, but I would not hold your breath. I'm not sure they will go back into production or not. From the research I've done, this is a rebranded film. Now, whether it's something currently in production or they found a warehouse full of something discontinued, I'm actually not entirely sure. I mean, the jury is still out on whether companies rebranding film is a good thing. Personally, I think overall it's a positive impact on the film photography community in most cases, but I would rather know the original manufacturer so I can purchase it from the source. Normally there is a DX barcode on the canister that the lab reads, and you can check the 6-digit code against a database to find out what its aliases are, but there was no barcode on this canister, and the barcode on the box turned up nothing. If you have the answer, leave me a comment and I'll pin it for others to see. Well, folks, that's all for now. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I can't say it enough. I had a wonderful time in Fort Edmonton. I'd definitely go again, especially since I doubt I saw everything. It also greatly helped to have a solid lens and a film to shoot with. If you like what I do around here, hit that subscribe button, and if you're already a regular viewer, maybe you'll consider joining me on Patreon. I offer early access, free prints, and more. Just go to patreon.com/Azriel to subscribe. You can also follow me on Instagram and Twitter. And until next time, stay classic.